Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Santos on Sports. This is going to be a good one. Alongside Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos, still recovering from that last Patriots game. We're going to get to that in a second. But first of all, thanks to our sponsors, John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. You can go to johnseedlaw.com, Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. Citywide Glass, 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton, and Scotty's Pub located on Pleasant Street in the great city of Fall River. So, Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Paul. As a school teacher, it's my holiday break now. Today was my last day, half day. So I have tomorrow off and then all of next week. So regrouping, got some basketball games to do over break. Got one again tonight. The New Bedford Lady Whalers, who are undefeated, take on Falmouth. So once we finish up the show here, it's down to New Bedford. I go and do a little basketball.
Yeah, both basketball teams are off to a good start.
Yeah, the boys had the boys the other night. They beat Barnstable pretty handily. They're now 4-0, and the girls got Falmouth, and they're 3-0. So they're looking to do the same thing.
All right, 2 undefeated teams. Nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. Speaking of something wrong with something, it's very rarely that I start yelling at the TV. I'm not usually a yelling at the TV kind of guy, but and I know it's been a few days now. Most fans have had a chance to digest it, but we put up in the headline the worst play in NFL history. That might be one of the worst, if not the worst, plays I've ever seen at the end of that game. However, I will say, I think the game was lost before that. I mean, the Patriots got a little bit of a bad break on that touchdown that they gave the Raiders there with the little toe on the line there. Although, I don't know. I think it's questionable about whether or not it was enough to reverse. But anyway, it got a couple of bad breaks. But I didn't think the offense was good at all. I thought the offense was terrible. I thought Mac Jones was lousy pretty much through that whole first half. In fact, he was so bad, I thought they should have benched him in the second half. But again, I don't want to go down that path for the 5th time. But, the reason why the Patriots came back in the second half is because they kept handing the ball off. When Stevenson was going and stuff like that. Now, again, there was that one where he passed it and Bill called timeout and all that. But how about that first drive where they got down to the 1-yard line and he just missed wide open receivers a couple of times? Hey, look, I understand about the bad offensive coordinators and all that, but Mac's got to be better. Patriots absolutely should have won that game. Matt Patricia or no Matt Patricia, I still think they should have won that game. And, Mac is waving at the sidelines and chirping and everything else. In a way, I don't blame him, but maybe you ought to keep the chirping to a minimum until you start hitting wide open receivers, because he was missing wide open receivers, even on screen passes. I thought it was Cam Newton. He threw the ball at the ankles, I think, of one of the receivers one time. And we're talking about little dinky 5-yard passes. His numbers were terrible. He was terrible. The whole offense was terrible. And it's only because the Raiders stink more than they do that they had a chance to win that game. So it was frustrating. I understand this isn't a Super Bowl team and was spoiled and all that, but this is a team that really should be like in the bottom end of the playoffs based on the talent that they have. And I don't know, that was just a disappointing, another crappy, terrible grind out of a disappointing game where you can point to this and that and the other thing. And it was just, and then to have it end like that. I mean, it was almost like appropriate because the whole damn game was lousy. And so you figure you might as well end on a lousy note. So Merry Christmas and to all a good night.
Hey, first, Paul, obviously, happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you, too.
And everyone out there that's watching our show. And, we thank you for checking in on our podcast. People who call in, thank you. Those who sponsor us, thank you. And 100%. Those who watch the show consistently, obviously, happy holidays to everyone. But, Paul, let's get down to the basic facts. It's not often that I actually get off the couch or get off the chair to a certain play, but this one I did. And the Stevenson run, I didn't mind the pitch to Myers because I could sit back and say, wait, maybe he saw an opening and Myers would go down the sideline and say, okay, kind of a little flea flicker, a little lateral and go down the sidelines. But then when he stopped and turned, I stood up. I will admit, I stood up off the couch. And I went, what is he doing? And then I realized he wasn't going down. And then in my head was, he was a former quarterback, Jacoby Myers. And so to make the throw the way he did, I don't know what he was seeing. I don't know what he was thinking. I can see the opportunity there of just going down and saying, okay, we're going to go to overtime. But that being said, Paul, let's get away from that first, because we need to go back to what you had said. And it started on the second drive for the Patriots, and you get a pass interference call by the Raiders, and now you have first down, a goal at the 2-yard line. It took you 4 plays, and let's not forget 2 timeouts, and you actually scored on the 4th, which was negated because Jonas Smith went off sides, and they settled for a field goal. So right there, as you said, you knew it was a tough stop. That's the first thing. The second thing is 13 for 31, 112. I don't care who you are. It's really not going to cut it. But at the same time, when you go 19 for 172, as Stevenson did, the run game kept them in the game. And yes, a chance to win the ball game. Now, what was very concerning, Paul, was they looked awesome on the last 5 drives that the Raiders had on defense. And remember, they had them 4th and 10 with just under the 2-minute warning, and they gave up a 12-yard pass, which is usually not Patriot style. And then they played back, and they played loose, and they were going down the field and making plays. And then, of course, the big play is the toe tap and all that, what went on. And then you add in, obviously, what happened on the play. So to even get to that point, Paul, is what I'm trying to say. Probably shouldn't even gotten there, but it did. And as Bill just kept saying after that, just a mistake, just a mental mistake, just a mental mistake. It didn't matter what they asked him. They bypassed the question, said, just go to Bill with it. And Bill said, it's a mistake. And that's Bill Belichick at his best. And that's what he was going to do. So I get it. You can put up there with Jim Marshall picking up a fumble and running the wrong way and going backwards and the Vikings and scoring on his own end zone when people are telling him, no, stop, don't do that. I mean, I don't know. It's just an unbelievable, 30 seconds to watch that play develop on the last play of the game. Really, really crazy. Never mind, Chandler Jones catches it, a former Patriot, and then Mac Jones trying to tackle him. It was almost like it was set up to say, hey, we're going to do it like this. Let's have some fun with it. Really tremendously unbelievable.
Yeah, Chandler Jones, as you said, number 1, former Patriot. And then, of course, Mac Jones, he's not going to tackle anybody big like that probably anyway, but it just looks so weak the way he just kind of – it looks like he just kind of like rolled over, just kind of fell on his back, reached up with one hand. Chandler Jones just stuck his arm out and just like rolled over him like a steamroller, And you're right. I remember jumping out of the couch the year the Patriots won against Seattle when they intercepted the ball at the 1-yard line, the Malcolm Butler play. I leaped out of the chair that time, but I generally don't leap out of the chair. But yesterday I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. What the heck is going on? Mikey Kahn is watching here today. Hey, Mikey, if you want to type in a comment, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And you can also call us at 774-762-6234. This would be a fun day to make a call. Chops Turner is talking about those damn 49ers. I'm glad they played on Thursday, so we didn't have to hear about it this weekend. So we'll see what happens next week. But maybe a collision course there with Dallas. In Dallas, they've been a little shaky lately too. But we'll get to them in a second. But again, the quarterback gets more credit when things are going good. He gets more blame when things are going bad. But I'm watching this game, and I still get back to why was Matt Patricia, the worst game caller in the history of NFL, why were they able to move the ball when the other guy was in there? But then when Mac Jones is in, they can't move the sticks, right? All he does is throw sideways and hand the ball off. And the few times he tries to throw it down the field, it doesn't work. So there's something not right there, and I know Patricia preferred the other guy. Now, the other guy, he may be mediocre. He's a third, string quarterback. He may even be a guy who, I don't know, how long is he going to be in the NFL? Who knows? You know what I mean? Yeah. He was picked at the bottom of the draft and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying that's necessarily somebody. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Terrible Play Caller was able to move the ball when the other guy was in there. So why is that? Why is that? I mean, it wasn't like it happened just one half a game. It happened for 2.5 games in a row against teams that are mediocre, but the Raiders are mediocre too. So I still ask that question, and I can't seem to get an answer to it because this guy, it wasn't his fault what happened to him. That's true, but I still think he should be doing better than what he has been.
Yeah, and you may have your wish, Paul, because they asked Bill Belichick today about the status of Mac Jones, and all he said was, "Yeah, and we're getting ready for Cincinnati."
Yeah, I
So
saw that.
there was no, yes, Mac is our guy. Mac is going to be playing and starting on Sunday. That was never mentioned. But I think one of the other things too, Paul, is with what you saw in the stats and not able to get in the end zone, this is the 29th worst defense against the pass in the NFL. And when you have teams, and I know it's only a stat, but I know the Raiders have not been that good, and they've given up a lot of points. So you would figure Mac would be better than 13 for 31 and 112 when you're 29th in pass defense in the NFL. So that's a little bit surprising to me that they're just not on the same page. And right now it's not working, and it hasn't in a few games. So it will be interesting to see if this is it for him and they're going to go somewhere else. And maybe Zappe gets the start on Sunday against the Bengals. So, look for that. That's a possibility because I just think it's a team that's not very good, and you need to take advantage of that. And the New England Patriots in the entire offensive system did not do it.
The only thing I would say to that is that I wish they had stayed with him before. You already know my feelings on that because we talked about it before.
Yeah.
To me, they should have stayed with Zappe while he was hot, and then when he fizzles out, then you put Mac Jones in or whatever. Okay, not to take him and throw him against Joe Burrow. I mean that's asking a lot too. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but you leaped off the chair, and I leaped off the chair when that last play of the game occurred. I'm wondering if this caller that's calling in right now was leaping off the chair as well. Hello, you're on Santos on Sports.
Well, I can tell you this: I didn't exactly leap out of my chair, but I was kind of frozen shock as to what I saw. And I don't know if you've heard any of the the suggested nicknames for this play because of how dumb it was. But the one that seems to be winning right now is lateral damage, which I really like.
Yeah. All right. All right. Is there a couple other ones that you can recall?
Son of a pitch was one of them that my mom really liked.
Okay.
I got to tell you, I mean, well, let's start with the play. Okay, so you're watching the game. You saw the ups and downs. You saw the terrible first half. You saw the comeback in the second half where they're basically running the ball. You saw the call to win against the Patriots. But, the Patriots got the ball back. I mean, they had 2 timeouts in 30 seconds. And I said to my wife, I said, there's no way they're coming down the field. This isn't Tom Brady. Tom Brady ain't walking through that door. So I even with the 2 timeouts in the 30 seconds, I was like, this is we haven't seen this yet. If he marches down the field and he wins, I'll be the first one to say, congratulations, you're showing me something. But anyway, so you're watching the game. It comes down to that last play. What is going through your mind as you're watching this?
Well, a few things. But one, of course, like you talked about, it was like 32 seconds with a couple of timeouts. Like, that might be some time to go down and get a field goal, see how this goes. But then it comes down to 3 seconds and that one time. I think it was either one or no timeout. So I'm like, they're probably just going to take a knee and go into overtime. And when they handed it off, I was like, that's just kind of a conservative call. But then Stevenson broke off, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something. But then like, they're just going to get run out of bounds. Then the pitch happens, and I'm like, okay, it's a tie game. There's no time left. Why are we trying to make something happen as if we're down 7? And then Jacoby Myers goes backwards and hucks it back to first of all, why are you trying to huck it back to Mac Jones in the first place? It's not like he can throw another pass there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They already passed the line of scrimmage, and then it ends up in Chandler Jones's hand. And I gotta say, it's poetic that it was Chandler Jones, and that stiff arm might have been the funniest thing I've ever seen. To me, it just goes to show that, like, obviously there was a whole bunch of other stuff that happened in the game that led up to this, but it just goes to show the disconnect between the players and the coaches. You've got 2 of your better players on offense, kind of just going rogue. Possibly thinking like, okay, these jackwagons here aren't going to make anything happen in overtime, so we got to make something happen right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility there, Ryan. And not only that, I found very interesting afterwards when Bill was asked what you thought on that last play. I mean, I know you don't have to chuck it 54 yards and get it in the end zone, but he said that we didn't have that arm to throw that ball. Well, you could throw it still up in the air and they could catch it at the 5 and ricochet and still get in. And yet I thought that was kind of interesting to say, well, he can't throw it that far. It's almost like we have no confidence in him. And, the coaching staff thinking the same things. So the players go, well, we'll try to do this on our own because they don't even have confidence that, we can do something at the end of a game.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment too. It was like, basically saying that they doesn't have the arm strength to do it. Yeah. So it was like lack of confidence in Mac Jones. To be honest, I would have still tried it. Like, the only time that I've ever seen a Hail Mary picked off and go back for a pick six, the closest thing that I ever saw to that was, if you remember, the Cowboys opener against Tampa last season, not this season. Yeah. But, I would have at least tried. It'd be a good way to really test Mac Jones's arm strength to see if he can do something of that nature.
Well,
I think it would still have been less risky than doing a freaking hook and ladder type thing and just hucking it all the way backwards like that.
Well, I was just about to text you guys, and I wasn't able to text fast enough, and I didn't want to watch or miss the last play. But right before the last play was going to happen, I was about to text, oh, great, we get to see a bomb out of Mac Jones. This should be great. At least he'll kick back. I mean, it probably won't work, but hey, at least we'll get to see him drop back and throwing downfield and just let the thing fly. Let's see what happens here. Then this happens.
Yeah, even if his arm strength is not there, Paul, to make the end zone, you could still get it to the 5 or to the 10.
Right.
And try to get a deflection or whatever and see if it worked out and get lucky that way. But to not even attempt it was a little strange. And then as Ryan said, the decision on Mai is to actually throw back to a quarterback to think like he could catch it and run it. Just makes no sense to know that, well, Mac's not going to be able to throw it again. So who are you attempting to throw it to? It's almost like to say, oh, this Chandler, let me toss it to him, and then I'll go let him do his thing. It was just really weird how that ended. And I mean, I know it's spur of the moment and the mental part of the game really sets in. But for that to really happen, really, really strange. And one of the wildest ones you'll ever see in the NFL.
And it's too bad because, looking at obviously the Bengals is going to be a tough game, but had they won that last game and they're 8-6 instead of 7-7, still got the Dolphins after that. I mean, at least there was like a path that was reasonable to say, well, maybe they can put something together. Now it's just like climbing a big, gigantic mountain that, I mean, it looks impossible right now.
Well, what they did was on Sunday night when they went to that game between the Skins and the Giants, or the Commanders, excuse me, but they ended up talking about the Patriots went from 64% and then lost the game down to 22% now to make the playoffs. That's how much of a difference that game made.
Ryan, I'm a big Patriots fan, as you know, and obviously a few days have gone by, so obviously to digest the things. I was like, what the heck happened? I have to say, though, it was kind of comical when you think about it. Once I had a chance to digest it, I was like, this is going to be one of the funniest, goofiest things I've ever seen.
It really was. And I think sooner or later, it's going to end up being up there with some of the craziest things in NFL history. I really do. And, obviously being Patriots fans, we're all pissed off that it happened. But, in years to come, just as an overall football fan, you're just going to come back and laugh at this because like, wow, we just witnessed that.
Well, a lot of times on, especially in the days leading up to the Super Bowl, the networks and, the pregame people that are planning, they're always trying to come up with something. They have the top 10 greatest plays, the top 10 this, top 10 that. If they ever come up with the top 10 idiotic plays that you've ever seen, this one's certainly got to be in that group. I mean, there's probably the other ones that I don't know about, I'm sure, like Chris was referring to before. I mean, there are a lot of, if you go back through history and you start looking through all the tape, but that one's definitely going to be in the top group, no question about it.
It's up there with the guy running the wrong way in Minnesota way back in, I want to say the 70s.
Yeah, right. And his own players were chasing him.
That was the play I was preferring to.
Yeah, I know.
But think about, Ryan. You know this too as well as I do, and Paul. You guys have this. All the great things and the great endings that the New England Patriots have gone through and won games. Think about what Tom Brady's done in field goals in the snow and all that, the tuck rule, all the things that have gone. And then you talk about the miracle in Miami when they put Gronk back there, and that didn't work out, and Miami scored. And now you have this one. So sometimes it kind of just comes back and plays another part in the Patriots' legacy of their team. And so this is just a bad one for them. But they got so many great ones that they can really go advance over the two bad ones. But it is a big one there for them. Quite interesting to regroup with the 3 games they have left. And then you sit back and say, I think it's time for a change. And it's a time for a coaching change. So got to expect that to be. I'm not saying Bill, but definitely Matt and Joe and whatever. And then I'm sure they'll take a look at Bill too. But I think it will be time for some change in that situation.
By the way, just to be fair, last week I was pounding my chest at the possibility of my 9-8 prediction coming out. It's starting to look like Chris's 7-10 prediction might be coming out if they lose these last 3 games. That could definitely be a possibility.
The 7-10 is looking more possible. I went with a bold prediction of 6, but obviously, that take of mine went out the window, and I want to say my uncle might have had the 7-10. But to be honest, I really think even though Miami is reeling a bit, I do feel like they're going to lose these last 3 games because this is a buzzsaw of 3-game stretch of a schedule. And I will say too, not to pat myself on the back too much, but I did say a way that Miami needed to stay in the game against Buffalo was the ability to run the football well, and they did that with at the very least Raheem Mostert against Buffalo. They almost came out with that one. So what do you think? So now that they've got that going, what do you think it's going to look like against Miami in better conditions?
Well, that kind of makes sense there. And I go back to the possession before, right there at the end, Ryan, when from the 19-yard line, 4th and 10, and they pick up 12 yards to get the first down. Very, very unlike New England Patriot defense in the Bill Belichick era. They usually get the job done, get out of trouble, get the ball, take a knee, and let's get out of Dodge and come back home and get ready for the Bengals. So I thought when that play happened, I'm like, wow, man, just things are just not in sync for this New England team this year. And I thought that was a big one. Never mind being Derek Carr, who hasn't been that great, and neither has the Raiders all year. So it was really kind of surprising to see. And then they continue to move on down the field. And then the controversy call that really took it over the top.
So, Ryan, before we let you go, we'd like to get your take on the Celtics because the Celtics were really on a roll. And all of a sudden, they've kind of hit a few bumps in the road. What do you think is going on there?
The skid has been absolutely infuriating. I think really the Warriors really are just in their head because ever since that Warriors game, it's been this massive skid. They've gone back to being as soft as they were in the finals. Like I couldn't even begin to explain what's going on. And Chris mentioned it multiple times when we were texting each other. It just hasn't been the same since Robert Williams has come back into the lineup. Yeah. And I'm not putting all the blame on him, but there's just a lack of cohesiveness there. And I don't care that they made it interesting last night against. What are you doing being down 71-43 or whatever the hell it was to the Indiana Pacers in the first place?
No, I agree with you. And it was interesting to listen to Tatum afterwards saying, we lost tonight and we deserve the boos from the fans. And I get all that. But he also said that we're not having fun and we're playing timid and tight. When I hear that, I'm like, well, why? Because prior to that, you were not doing that at all. You guys were having fun and doing what you needed to do. And it didn't matter who you put in there at the time. Everybody was having fun and they were lighting up from downtown everywhere. Now, I know you're going to have shooting slumps and their 3-point shots have gone away. And then, Tatum was out one game. Then they lost to the Warriors. Then they beat the Lakers and then they come home from the West Coast. And I get the first night. I get it. It's the West Coast trip. That's a tough stretch. You're coming back, you're getting your legs set back in from the West Coast, and then you lose the first one. But the next two, I don't see it. But to say that we need to play to have fun and we're timid and tight, that's a little nervous to me of what's going on right now with the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, and in that same press conference, I think it was, he had also said that we got to learn how to win again.
Yeah,
that's another rather concerning statement, considering the role that you had been on to begin the year. Learn how to win again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a little that's a little scary. I was during that comeback, right? My son was working at games. I texted him. For those who don't know, my son works as an usher up there part time. So I say, "What the heck's going on up there?" He's like, I know things are getting a little cranky amongst the players over here. I said, "Oh, that's not good." So then they came back, and I'm thinking, "Oh man, you know what I'm wishing for? I'm secretly wishing for them all the way back." And Tatum's making all these shots and he's hitting all these threes and doing all this, and then it comes down to the last shot to see if my boy, Chris's boy, can make that shot. You know what I mean? I know I'm still hung up on this thing. I get hung up on these things. It's like Zappy. I can't. I get hung up on this one thing and I can't let it go. Chris.
Well, I'm hoping they just take that second half and realize what they can do and get back to that kind of style of play.
Absolutely.
That gained them back in from that deficit that Ryan talked about, 71-47, which was crazy as it can be. But again, they pride themselves last year on great defense. And even this year, 71 points. You're scratching your head going, why are you letting Indiana get that many from you? So it's a little bit nerve-wracking. I know Williams is in there. They're trying to fit him in. So I'm hoping that's not stirring the pot in the wrong direction to make sure he gets enough minutes. And it's just not working. Hopefully they right the ship. They got Minnesota tomorrow. And don't forget, Milwaukee on Christmas Day. Big game.
That's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, thank you very much for your contribution to our show throughout the year 2022. Hopefully we'll hear from you next week. But Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to you and your family. And thanks a lot for your insight here to the sports scene.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Merry Christmas to you, too.
All right.
Thanks
very much. Ryan from Mattapoisett checking in. And we had a comment over here from Derek Decon Consatio.
Yes.
Right behind the butt fumble. That was another. And how about those Detroit Lions, baby? Says Derek Decon. Now, is he a Detroit Lions fan?
He is. And if you've ever seen him on his show that he has, he wears some Lions paraphernalia, but he's enjoying that 1-6 start, and they've now gone on quite a roll, and they just beat the Jets, and so they're sneaking around in the NFC to say, hey, you guys don't want to, take off and make the playoffs. Maybe we can backdoor our way in, and so the Detroit Lions are a team. Even if it's not this year, Paul, I think they've gotten what Coach Campbell is trying to install in that program. It'd be interesting to see how they do next year as well and get off to a better start. But they look good.
There's an easy trivia question for you. What quarterback led his team to a 21-0 win over the Lions earlier this year? Sorry. I can't say it. Never mind.
Don't get Decon upset.
Zippy zappy, baby. Zippy zappy.
Yeah.
All right. So 774-762-6234. We'll work our way back around to the Patriots if that's what you would like. But I did want to talk a little bit more about the Celtics because, at the beginning of the year, right, you look at them like player for player, right? Mm-hmm. Not only on the starting lineup, right, but also who comes off the bench, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 deep. I mean, Pritchard came off the bench the other day, and obviously you have to almost feel bad for him because the team is so deep now and they've added so many players that Pritchard is not really your first or second choice anymore like it might have been last year. But think about how deep that bench is and how players can come off that bench, and some of the players who've improved a lot during the course of the offseason, and some of the players that they added. They're as deep and as talented as any team in the league. So really, the Celtics really should be a team that should contend for the title and probably will contend for the title unless they get upset in an early round. But is there another team out there that's as talented or as deep as they are? I'm not sure.
Well, in the East, you got to think of Milwaukee. You got to think of Philadelphia. And you still got to think of Brooklyn, because look what they've done. And they put up like 90 points by a certain half or whatever it was, and they scored 139. So they're trying to right the ship and get themselves turned around too. So there are some good teams, and you can take Embiid and Hardaway and Harden, put them two. You can take Middleton with Antetokounmpo, obviously in Milwaukee. And then you take Durant, Irvin, and Simmons. I mean, yeah, they're there. Them teams are there. But to me, Paul, it still goes with the Boston Celtics. From what I saw from last year and what is started this year, the start. Now, I know they're on a slide, but the start for them has shown that, yeah, they got some depth there, and they can put a lot of players in. I think they put Pritchard in when they need sparks. I like the Brogdon kid. Smart and Williams have their flashes. But right now, it's a skid that I'm hoping that it's just a small skid, and they figure this out right away and turn it right around, because this is a team that, again, is a team that can take it all, and I'm hoping it's this year.
I hope they're not having like some issues behind the scenes, not that would necessarily be the case, but I know before they started winning last year, people forget, right? It was just around January of 2022 when things started to come together. A year ago right now, people were saying maybe we ought to trade, and I was one of them, trade one of the big two. Things were really getting difficult. They were throwing chairs around, and this one didn't get along with that one, and so on and so forth. And they seemed to figure it out in the second half of the last basketball season and right into the beginning of this basketball season.
Yeah.
So they matured, this, that, but there was some things behind the scenes, and stuff happens in a locker room during the course of a long season. That stuff happens all the time, and that's not a big thing. It happens, like a family. So hopefully it's not something like that, because they're too talented to be losing many games in a row or going on a real skid. Hey, I'd rather have a little bit of a skid now. It's like the Bruins, you almost want them to lose a little bit now, so later on they can pull it back together, because you can't stay hot that long. You can't stay hot from now all the way to the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But hopefully it's not something like that somebody can't get along with somebody or some nonsense like that, because sometimes that chemistry on a team, even if the team is the most talented, can hinder them from winning the whole thing.
No, you are correct there, and you become a family, Paul. And I'm really happy that after last year, they didn't do what a lot of people thought and a lot of media thought and say, okay, we're going to keep Brown and Tatum's going to go, or vice versa, and make move. They kept the nucleus, and they've built around it. And at the same time, they went out and made some extra moves and get that deep bench. And I like what they've done. Believe me, I have. And then you have the Udoka issue, and you had to deal with that. And that was a family thing as well. And they get off to this great start and say, well, we'll put that aside and we'll do what we have to do. And it seemed like they're gelling very well with their new head coach. And that seems to have worked too. He looks like he has a calm demeanor when you talk to him before games, after games, how he gets along with his players. We don't have all that insight because we're not in the locker room and see how it is. But it seems to have gone good. And let's hope, like you said, this is just a skid now and get back to playing Celtic basketball and turn this around right after the holidays.
It looks like we have a message coming in from the Windy City.
Yes.
It just blew in from the Windy City.
Well, it's cold. It's cold there.
Mark Sylvia says, don't worry about the Celtics. It's a long season.
No, great. And I hope he's correct, because, he's talked about them in the past, and he knows what it is to be a team. And I think he's seeing the writing on the wall that this is a good team, and they will overcome this, and they will be there at the end of this season.
All right. And Mark, keep those comments coming. If you have a chance to sneak a call in, we'd appreciate that too at 774-762-6234. Anybody else out there who'd like to join the discussion? We always enjoy that very much. A lot going on here with the Patriots and the Celtics, and we'll talk about the Bruins in just a moment as well. As far as the Patriots are concerned, I heard the announcer, and again, those announcers that were on there doing the game, calling the action, probably don't see the Patriots obviously as much as we do. But, they always say things like, Bill Belichick coach team, that's uncharacteristic of a Bill Belichick coach team, and blah, 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 So Bill Belichick still has that reputation of like, that's uncharacteristic of a Bill Belichick coach team. Yeah, since when? Ever since Brady left, and I don't know why it would coincide with Brady leaving. They can't get out of their own way. How about all the penalties? I think they lead the league in false starts and delay of games and stuff like that, So, like, why would the departure of Brady result in you can't do anything else right either. You know what I mean? It's one thing you lost a great quarterback and so forth, but I don't understand that this idea that the Bill Belichick coach team doesn't make all these dumb mistakes. Yes, it does. We've been watching it for the last 3 years.
Well, when you have Tom Brady and his presence in that huddle and in the pocket, and that's what all players say about Tom Brady, is what he brings to the mental aspect of the game, not the physical part, and how he has everybody on the same page. And the coaching staffs are with him, and he knows how to settle it down and work. And if you've noticed a lot with Mac this year, he's in this headset like this. He's looking to the sidelines. He's screaming. His arms are going up. They just don't seem in sync, Paul. They really don't. And I don't know, all the ins and outs because we're not there. So who's calling what? Why are you calling that? Can I audible here? And then again, you have to find out what works right for Mac in these situations. What works right for Zappy in the situations. When you've had a great and the best quarterback of all time on the center, you already know what's going to happen, and you already know what you can call because he's so good at it. It's tough when it's somebody new and you're trying to get all the best out of that person and what's right and what's wrong. And they just don't look like they're in sync at all this entire season.
Yeah, you make a great point there because you're absolutely right. If Tom Brady is there and Chris Santos is on the team and Paul Santos is on the team, and you're looking at that huddle and you see Tom Brady standing there and he's like, "Hey, Santos, get your act together. Get your head out of your ass." Whatever. In other words, he does have the way of making everybody else get on the same page. And I got to tell you, the Patriots have definitely lost that since Brady's departure. And I know that before they went to the Super Bowl, when they're at the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, the night before the Super Bowl, Tom Brady famously texted each player one at a time and said, let's say Chris Santos is, the tight end. And you had never won before. And Tom Brady's texting you, "Hey, Chris, get ready. Tomorrow you're winning the Super Bowl." Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're winning the Super Bowl. Yeah, but I'm not yet. No, you're winning. I'm telling you right now, you're winning the Super Bowl. Wow, Tom Brady's calling me, telling me we're going to win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Like that whole thing that he brings and that great players do. I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we can underestimate that. Now, speaking of the great city of Chicago, hello, Mark. You're on the line.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Hey, happy holidays, Mark.
7 degrees out. It's snowing sideways, and the wind's blowing about 30 miles an hour. So I did a little bit of day drinking today.
little nippy.
Oh, guys, I'll tell you, it's depressing. This whole thing is depressing. I don't even know if I want to talk about the Patriots.
Oh, no, come on now. I want to hear this. This should be good.
Hey, listen, I just can't say enough about Mac. Again, I haven't been a big supporter of his, but I think this is way beyond Mac. These coaches have ruined that guy. His mental status right now, the way he's yelling, and it's crazy. And then you got Belichick. Hey, we can't throw the ball 55 yards. Belichick's running up and down the sidelines, 1st and goal from the 1, calling a timeout because he doesn't like the play that's called. It's like, guys, you're on the 1 yard line. What the? Just a mess. The state of the Patriots coaching. I agree with what Chris said earlier. Listen, there's obvious that changes are going to come. Listen, is it time for Bill to go? I don't know the answer to that, but it'd be shocking for me to see Kraft make a move at the Belichick level. But I'm telling you, they can't shut the noise out. There's no doubt. He hears the Brady, Belichick stuff. The longer this shit continues, the more and more people feed that. It was Brady all those years. It was Brady all those years. And Chris is exactly right. You asked the question, Paul. How did all this stuff, why was things so pristine? Well, because of Brady. Brady demanded perfection. He demanded excellence. And who's that player that's making up for the bad coaching today? I mean, it's not Mac.
No, and it's not going to be Mac. And when you're not seeing eye to eye with your coaches, and you can see, and especially in the last few games, how frustrated he looks. We've seen him scream on camera. We even, believe him dropped an F-bomb that they picked up on one of the sports channels. And then even this week, and he's got his headset and he's got his arms up. and he's screaming all around saying, "Hey, what's going on here?" And then Bill is finally stepping in, and again, uncharacteristic, calling 2 timeouts on the second drive of the game, going, we got to score here, and they can't even get in, and then they get a penalty on Jonas Smith, and they settle for a field goal. So just really not the typical New England Patriot style and organization that you're used to seeing. And you're right, Mark. Changes will have to be made. It's as simple as that.
Well, you say that, but would you be surprised if nothing happens in the offseason? That they make no changes?
Yes, I would be. Yeah, I would be surprised if there was no changes. If Matt Patricia stays your offensive coordinator, I will be shocked. I'm telling you. I just don't see it.
Well, I hope you're right. I mean, I don't think you're going to come back. I mean, if the Patriots had won this game against the Raiders and they stumbled to a 9-8 season and missed it by one playoff spot or something like that, or somehow managed to pull off a miracle and get the 10th win, then no. But after that last one, Mark, I would think that Kraft or somebody he's going to step in and say, wait a minute, you got to at least revamp the coaches.
I mean, listen, everybody's talking about the last play because it was just so bizarre.
Yeah.
But before the Raiders scored, they're losing 24-17. They get a 3-and-out with 0 yards. Actually, there were 2 of them in a row. Then the Patriots get the ball with like 2.5 minutes to go, get a first down. The game's over. You got a 2-yard run, a 1-yard run, and then a penalty on the offensive lineman. It's 3rd and 12, and they run back on 3rd and 12. Like, there's so many things wrong right now. And when you listen to Bill talk, it was okay over the years. We're doing this for the team, and we're got to get better. That shit is old now, listening to that after every game.
All right, but let me ask you this. That first time that they were down at the goal line, I think it was it Thornton or somebody was wide open in the corner there? No, I don't know if it was Thornton, but I mean, Mac missed them by a mile. I don't know what happened there. There were some really bad passes by Mac.
There were bad passes by Mac. No, listen, this was, everybody said it, this was probably his worst game as a pro. So it was an awful game. But again, to me, it's more than that. I mean, we're snapping the ball before linemen you got Jabril Peppers on the block punt. He had his back to the line of scrimmage, but he didn't even know the ball was getting snapped. Like, they never make these mistakes. They asked Bill, like, all these situational expenses, as mistakes. Well, we're going to work on it. It's week 16, Bill.
Yeah, and the thing. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Listen, I agree to a point of what that specific second drive in the 4 plays established and how bad Mac was. And so then why go with those play calls? Run Stevenson, or even do a quarterback sneak and have Stevenson push Mac Jones into the end zone. Find a way to score. And to do it that way is really baffling to me, that they're sitting there pressing, and it looks like they're pressing to try to score instead of doing it naturally. That's what I feel, because I think you could do it that way. If he goes 19 for 172, and I know it was early in the game, but have some confidence that you're playing one of the worst teams, unfortunately for the Raiders, not very good. And I know they're 29th against the pass, but still you're on the 2-yard line, first down. Let's drive the ball in.
Run the ball.
You got Stevenson, who's back, one of your better players. Put him in there and pound the football. And if he can't, Tom Brady would have done his little sneak that he normally does, and he would have scored too. So I don't understand why they just don't do the simple things that they've done in the past.
And there was a stat there I saw that was really, really horrific, and that was, this is the first time all year that a team had been that close and didn't score a touchdown against the Raiders the entire year. That's the first time that the team didn't get in the red zone against the Raiders defense. So really bad. And how about this, right? When you really think about this, right? I'm sitting there looking at the Patriots at 7-7, and with all the dysfunction and with all the bad coaching and everything else, they're still 7-7. So think about if they just had a seasoned offensive coordinator and a good special teams coach, and maybe tighten things up a little bit on the defense, to improve upon Steve Belichick, who, he's there with, obviously with the father being the head coach and all that. Just those few things that could get you like 2 more wins. And then the Patriots would be a playoff team. What do you think about that? You guys agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a 10-win team. Listen, everybody has said, I don't know, I was listening, I don't know if it was Troy Aikman or one of the announcers. Yeah, listen, they don't have a bunch of great weapons on the team, but they got enough weapons that they shouldn't be, like 28th in passing. I mean, they've got capable receivers and they got 2 good running backs. How can they not score? They don't try half the time. Chris, you're on the goal line. Run the ball with Stevenson. What are we trying to do here?
And I don't understand why they don't use those little 7 or 8 yard passes over the middle to like the tight end. It's all sideways. Everything's sideways.
Or behind or backwards.
Yeah, or backwards. How many times do they throw the ball sideways? I'm like, we can't just throw the ball straight once in a while. Why does it always have to be sideways?
They could get lucky here and win a couple of these games, and then you get screwed. Or, I tell you, if they continue to lose and they lose these last 3, boy, there's going to be a lot of problems. I don't know how that locker room stays together. Well, I mean, it's getting bad.
See, the thing is like I'm watching the game, and I'm not sure whether I should almost root for the Patriots to lose because they're almost better off losing because then they'll make changes. But if they finish strong and miss the playoffs by a game, then it's less likely they're going to make changes.
I agree. I agree.
This one, guys. Yeah, but this one, Mark.
Kraft just got to pull Bill aside at the end and say, hey, whether you're leaving or not, you got a clean house. All these other guys, Kraft is going to go 4 years without a playoff win. I mean, we're not the Detroit Lions,
Hopefully Decon is still watching. We got a guy who's a big Lions fan, and when I pointed out that Bailey Zappi led the Patriots to a 29-0 win over the Lions, Derek is like, come on, Paul, LMAO. I just can't help but bringing that one up.
Paul and Mark, I'm going to disagree with this one, and this is the reason why. Because I think there's been enough that's gone on this year with Mac and Zappi and Bill and Matt, and so much drama that they don't want that. And changes are going to be made no matter what happens in these next 3 games. That's my feeling.
Oh, I hope you're right, because I think we need changes.
I think so.
Well, yeah, here's the problem with changes, guys. When you order your kid a $120 Xander Bogaerts jersey, and then when the present gets here for Christmas, the guy's playing for the Padres, and then you buy him a Mac Jones jersey, and who knows, he might be playing for the Jets next year.
You never know. Oh, boy. All right, well, do you have any other thoughts? How about bringing Garoppolo back here?
Well, I don't know. I mean, listen, you have any other thoughts? How about bringing Garoppolo?
Sorry
about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, you guys are hearing the news out there. I mean, I keep hearing this, could Brady come back and one last year and retire a Patriot, or is it Garoppolo, or is it Mac? I mean, who knows what they're going to do? I think they got to figure out the coaching before they figure out who the quarterback's going to be.
I'll tell you, I don't know about you, Chris. I would be absolutely shocked if Brady came back to this mess. You know what I mean? I think he's too smart for that. I mean, him and Belichick had a hard time too. But I mean, if the team was like on the cusp of like going over the hump, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I'd be shocked. I'd love to see it because it would be entertaining as hell, but just to see what would happen. But I would be shocked.
I agree with you there. I don't see that
observation happening. I have. I don't know what you guys, if you see it or if you've heard about it, but when I hear Belichick talk, it sounds to me like this guy just does not like Mac. That's not his quarterback. And then when you think about these last 3 weeks, and Belichick is an authority guy, and hey, it's the coaches and the players, you listen to us. And the way Mac's been kind of swearing and bashing the coaches, like you wonder if that's rubbed Belichick. And now Belichick's like, I got to get this guy out of here if I'm going to be coaching next year, because we're the boss, we're the coaches, and this guy's showing us up on national TV. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that Bill had a chance to bench him a couple of times, like say, all right, you're going to be doing that. I'm taking you out with the other guy and see what he can do. He certainly had the opportunity to do that, but he's been very reluctant to do that.
Well, it doesn't seem like he likes Mac Jones. That's just what I see when I hear him speak.
I think you're right. I get that feeling too. It might be a situation where, remember how there was a lot of pressure on him to take a quarterback in the first round, which was really going against the grain of what Bill generally likes to do.
Yeah.
So
he could have just drafted Zappy in the fourth.
Or who's that other guy that they're always talking about?
Yeah.
I forget what his name is, but anyway, yeah, that's right. Just say Ramsey. We can win. We can win with any quarterback.
Great show as always.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the call. I got to get out in this snow and finish my shopping. So hopefully you guys have a good holiday. I'm sure I'll be chatting with one or both of you. And hey, don't worry about the Celtics. Long season.
All right.
Young coach. They gotta integrate Williams back into the lineup. The Celtics should be fine.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot for your call and for your contributions to the show throughout the year. You're always interesting to listen to.
Hey, I got to finish day drinking here, guys.
Hey, happy holidays, Mark.
Thank you very much. Day drinking. He still hasn't recovered from that play the other day. I think that's what it was. Anyway, still got a few minutes here. 774-762-6234. Always a lot of fun talking sports right here on Santos on Sports. And while we have the opportunity, let me mention the sponsors one more time. Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Speaking of throwing a couple back, Chris and I are going to meet over there and a date to be determined. Citywide Glass, 3 locations to serve you, 425 State Road in Dartmouth. We have additional locations, or they do, in Fall River and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, where Chris Santos plays proudly with his tennis, of course, at 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. You can also play pickleball, although Chris isn't ready for that just yet. But down the road, he'll be the pickleball champion, I think, down the road. And John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford, johnseedlaw.com. And, you touched upon the New Bedford Whalers, and it's been quite a while before they've had a basketball team, especially on the men's side or boys' side, that has been undefeated or came out strong out of the gate like that. And somebody told me at the beginning of the year, hey, keep an eye on the Whalers. I'm thinking, the Whalers, they usually struggle in 500, this and that. So off to a 4-0 start. I mean, is this a team that you think can make some noise?
I will let you know that when second quarter grades officially come out.
Oh God! Oh no, not that again.
Remember, you gotta be a student first before you're an athlete.
Uh-huh.
And if you're just going to be an athlete and don't want to be a student, might be some guys may not make it off that team. So I'm hoping that everything is good. I'm hoping that they have it, and Coach Matt Hill knows exactly all his players. He'll have everybody for the full season. They got a couple of good guys that really can turn this team around, and I wouldn't say carry them on their back, but they will definitely lean that way to a couple of players, and they make the others better. Let's put it that way from what I've seen so far. So let's see how it looks, and we'll talk about that, Paul, down the road, and we'll see how that student athlete looks then.
Well, it's always nice to see because obviously New Bedford has a great history with sports. You go back to the 90s and it was like, a city of champions and all that. And of course, that was a perfect storm where a group of athletes coming together and they played all these different sports and everything seemed to line up. The sun and the moon and the stars lined up, as they like to say. But it's been kind of down for a while. I mean, they had a game, I think, a couple of years back where they made it into the play-in round of the state tournament. That was a very good year. But, it's been a while since, they've had a season to write home about. And so always hopeful because it is more enjoyable when you're successful in sports. It's a lot more fun than when you're not successful. So hopefully they'll be successful. And I know you also follow New Bedford Vogue. You do a lot of staying games and stuff like that. What do you see in the area this year so far? I know it's very early on.
Yeah, unfortunately for Vogue, they're struggling. They got off to a tough start. Dartmouth really went through them pretty good. So the Indians, putting up some points as well. I really haven't had a chance to get over and see Stang yet. So I'm hoping we get them next week and take a look at them. But right now, the focus has been obviously on the men's and the ladies of New Bedford High School. When you're undefeated, people start showing up. The benches get a little bit wider. And at the same time, the people behind you in the crowd gets a little bit thicker. So it's been a good turnout right now, and been seeing some people that I haven't seen in quite a few years, Paul, showing up to these games to say, hey, the Whalers are looking good this year.
Well, next week we're going to have the Dartmouth Hockey Christmas Tournament. Unfortunately, Stang didn't want to come this year for the first time in a long time, so there's some kind of an issue going on there. Hopefully that'll be rectified. But Old Rochester is in there. That's always a good game with Dartmouth, and I think Oliver Ames is in there. So Dartmouth Community Media, we're going to do whatever second game Dartmouth plays. If it's the consolation game, oh well. If it's a championship game, that'll be great on Thursday night. And then off we go throughout the season, young team. And as far as Dartmouth basketball, young guy, the Nick Simonetti, who I only know because he came up through the youth ranks when my kids were coming through. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do over there with the basketball because, their team has been down for quite a while too. And, hey, it's always nice when you can put it together a good program and be a competitive team. And as you said, be a student first and then have a competitive team out there athletically is always enjoyable.
Well, our fans out there, listen, high school sports right now, it's obviously prime season for basketball. So if you're looking to catch it out there, catch Paul on DC TV. You can catch me on the New Bedford Cable Network or go to an event, check it out, look it up. All you got to do is Google the team and check out Max Preps. They'll give you the schedule, let you know when they're playing and, stop in and say hi to me or Paul and, love to chat with you guys and talk sports. So happy holidays to all you guys. Happy holidays to you, Paul. And as I get ready to leave here and get ready for the girls' basketball game, and we'll talk again next week. And hopefully the Cincinnati Bengals will be either a team that we say, look out for them going to the playoffs, or what happened. And is this the Zappy era starting this week?
You know what would be a dream come true for me. Bill Belichick says, you know what? The hell with it. Let's start the other guy. And the other guy comes in and knocks off Joe Burrow. Oh boy! I might have to go to Chicago and drink with Mark. That would be too much to bear. But anyway, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you and your great family that you have over there, and enjoy yourself at the game tonight. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
For Santos on Sports, I'm Paul Santos for Chris Santos. Merry Christmas, and we'll